If I could add, there is a difference between the United States and Europe. It's true that in Europe, the Islam communities are a little more segregated and somewhat disaffected, and the United States, they're a lot more integrated. You know, in that in Europe, you know, they're a hidden class, and in here they're a very open.
Well, I think it's interesting that, you know, anybody opens
accepted class. You know, successful and.
Yeah,
you know.
Anyone who opens up a history book will see that homosexuality, it was in every ancient culture. It probably originated, if you could say anything like that, as originated, that was probably with humanity since forever, in the cultures of Greece and the Middle East. So it's ridiculous to say that somehow...
No, it's a part of the rainbow. It's part of life. Yeah, it's from the beginning.
You can't really... Right, you can oppress something that's part of life, but it just doesn't ever go away, no matter how much you oppress it.
You know, that was
just make people's lives miserable, which is what this movie is about. It's about fighting against people's lives being made miserable, being forced into a closet, and having a big chunk of their self-identity taken away from them.
Right.
But I thought it was interesting too how incredibly inclusive his political point of view was. That not just labor, but seniors.
Right.
He had platforms that covered a lot of different groups and support from a lot of different groups, and it was sort of a really inclusive thing.
Anyway, I want to go back to one little thing from the caller, just so you know that homosexuality is really repressed in the Mideast, but in this kind of sick and twisted way, in Iran and in Indonesia, they will pay for somebody to have a sex change. So they feel that those
transsexuality is
accepted, and the government will actually pay for the sex change.
Well, I saw an article about Mexico, town in Mexico, where transsexuality is very accepted.
So it's not a black and white issue, and there are a lot of progress needs to be made in a lot of places, but it's a curious way that different governments and religions.
It's not curious. It's part of the. You know, to me it's not. No, of course, a patriarchal society. Well, if you would be a woman, then we will accept you. What they cannot accept is the idea of two men as peers, as equals, having sex, period. And that's, and the interesting, I just want to go to Harvey for a minute. You were mentioning about his inclusiveness, and he was very visionary, and I think the most important thing that he did for the gay movement was that he was one of the first to build a bridge to women. Really, until the 70s, gay men and lesbians operated in completely different cultures. And really, that moment in the 70s was critical to really bring us together as a community with, you know, common purpose, common political agenda, which really, then only a few years later, when AIDS came around, was incredibly important to have our sisters with us at this incredible time. But
GLBEQ.
Let's just say gay. But the other interesting thing about Harvey and his life and this film, which is his legacy, is that he was a visionary in the truest sense. He understood he would die. He knew, he had this very dark side to him. He knew he was going to die. He knew he was going to be murdered. It did not stop him. He was courageous.
Right.
And why did he get that? Because of the threats he was getting, or something in his own persona?
I think it was just he knew that. He was a special person. He just knew that would be a part of the
Well, he was getting a lot of death threats.
He did. But I think he knew
and he was a figure at a certain point in time that was causing a change. I mean, this is a risky thing to do.
He was stepping forward and taking sort of like the Martin Luther King of gay people type of position. And he had seen what had happened in his oral history for RFK, MLK.
So of course he would expect that. I think,
you know, the Panthers.
That was the role of a leader in the movement, was you had to be martyred.
Right.
And I think he saw that. I mean, tragically, people accept that. I don't, but I think he saw that, and I think that this film gives you a little insight into the courage of an individual. Harvey in the film and in life is one of the things I remember most, and I keep with me always, is how it's not really about me, that I'm not really a candidate in his case. I'm part of a candidacy. You know, I'm just part of a wave, but this big wave is happening, and that, in my case with the rainbow flag, I adapted that to be the rainbow, which goes, you know, before me and will hopefully go after me, and that our struggle is a long arc over many generations.
Now,
so
did you supervise the scene where they dropped the flag?
I made the flag.
I have to tell you, I was
a rainbow flag.
I got to tell you how grateful I was that Gilbert actually came out while we were making the film and contributed so much. First, just you know, people, I got to tell you, the directors and producers just got to know him and fell in love with him, and he helped us. It was really funny. Back in the day, when they would have these marches, Gilbert would make these banners. You know, he was a drag queen. He knew how to sew, so he would make these banners. So he came out, and I said, "What about this banner?" And Gilbert said, "Oh, I made that 30 years ago." And I said, "Well, you got to make another one." So
do it again.
He remade these banners for the marches, and for that climatic scene when Sean gets up and gives that speech in front of City Hall, Gilbert very generously allowed us to use one of the original rainbow flags. That's from fantastic. That very day that is portrayed in the movie. Was, even though you don't see it the way it kind of really happened, was the first day that the rainbow flag was unfurled there in June 25th, 1978.
So you
at United Nations Plaza. The flag, I think, was put up originally on two
down the street, just across the street. We really didn't even get much permission from City Hall then. Of course, when the movie came, they condensed it. But historically, it was the Gay Pride Parade in 1978. Harvey's great moment of triumph. It was this great, incredible, empowered moment. We were fighting an initiative that later we were going to win in November. You'll see all of this history in the movie. But, you know, it was a very, very magical time, 1978. And Harvey was a very, very magical person. And I think that, you know, the public has really embraced this movie because they're finally seeing
Charlie Beale,
a little bit more than the martyr.
I want to ask you, how has the movie been received?